All right, so thank you everyone so much for joining us. Again, this is a co-hosted webinar with Rise Together, and today's is the first of 3, and we are going to be talking about how the Bay Area will get counted. And the goal of our webinar today is to understand what's happening in the Bay Area for census outreach and how you can get involved. And so thank you for joining us today. I'm hoping you get a lot out of it. Our agenda, we're going to do a quick little intro, and I'm moving slides, so if that's not moving with you all, please let me know. But our agenda for today is a quick recap of who is Rise Together and who is United Way. We're going to talk about some plans for the General Census Bureau and our local Bay Area regional efforts. And then we have 2 county spotlights that we're really excited to bring to you, Contra Costa and Marin. They're both on the line and they're going to be sharing with you their plans. And then we're going to talk to you about how to get involved. We want to make sure you're connected to the work, take your questions and answers, and then remind you about our upcoming webinars. And what this webinar really is not, it is not a Census 101 webinar. I actually took a look through our folks that have registered today and I did feel like most of them are folks that we know, that I've seen on the census circuit. And so I'm hoping that most of you actually have a good handle on what's happening in the census world. So just one more note, I think I'll make sure I mute everyone. You can unmute yourself if you need to, and I will pause for questions. So, but please, if somehow you get unmuted, make sure you mute yourself. And okay, so let's keep going here, and we'll get through it. So first, I'd like to let Megan do a quick intro. Please introduce yourself, Megan, as well as Rise Together.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. Great to be on with you all. This is Megan, Executive Director of Rise Together Bay Area. And we probably know most of you, but we are a 9-county coalition to cut poverty in the Bay Area. And our backbone support was for a very long time United Way Bay Area, who helped found us. We very recently, in the last couple of weeks, officially merged with BARHI, the Bay Area Regional Health Inequities Initiative, which is the coalition of public health departments, and feel like we are really bringing a strong, now very holistic and intersectional view to how we generate economic opportunity and thriving communities in the Bay. So we're really excited to be joining forces and broadening our coalition even further. And you guys probably know us from either our policy advocacy and our lobby day in Sacramento, our regional coalition building. We have our annual Opportunity Summit, which brings people together from across the region to look at the key trends in driving economic opportunity, and then our Leadership for Equity and Opportunity program. So among all of that, and central to our strategies in ending poverty is power building and really looking to the census as a key strategy to ensure that our communities get what they need. So we're really excited to be co-hosting and be a part of this series.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. Okay, and just a quick review of why United Way is engaged in this work and working with Rise Together on these webinars is our mission in the world is to be the catalyst that inspires people to invest in each other and strengthen our communities. And we see a strong, vibrant, inclusive Bay Area where neighbors can collaborate and create opportunities. So we're specifically focused on activating people to break the cycle of poverty. And we really, when this opportunity came to us to work on census, we knew that this was all connected. Like Megan said, the census is how we will make sure our communities get what they need. And so we consider this part of our work and a compelling part of why we do what we do and how we do what we do. So earlier this year, in the spring, we were selected by the California Census Office to be the Region 3 Administrative Community-Based Organization, so the ACBO, and you'll hear ACBO a lot. And the counties that are in Region 3 are actually most of the Bay Area counties, except for Napa and Sonoma, those 2 counties are actually in Region 2, but I know there's rumors out there that there are 12 counties in the Bay Area. But you can see here which ones we include in Region 3. And these are actually the same counties that the United Way Bay Area works in, except for Napa. We usually do work in Napa, and that's not in our census work. So that is why we're involved, and that's why we're here to do work with you all. And I think some of you have seen us out and about doing work in your county. So we know you, and we're happy that you're here with us. So really, we are now in a countdown to census. And I'm going to give you some idea of what's happening out in the world with census right now and the operations. So I'll take care of the first chunk of the timeline is August through October of this year. And right now, actually just on Sunday, there's an address listing, it's almost a canvassing operation that's happening out in neighborhoods. So you'll see people from the Census Bureau out walking around, and we have more information on this. And hopefully, if you haven't seen that out in the world yet, you can look this up. The Census Bureau just did a press conference last week talking about the operation and how to identify census workers that are doing that work. So that's happening right now. And what's happening for us here regionally in the Bay Area Counts 2020 effort, a lot of census outreach funding is being deployed. So that includes us, but that also includes the Bay Area Census Funders Collaborative, who are getting ready to announce their grantees very soon. I know many of you saw the invite to this webinar in an email we emailed to everyone who had applied for the funding from the ACBO. And we're going to be making an update announcement by the end of next week as well. And some of that will include, what the gaps that are still there and what additional RFPs might be released in the future to help identify or to address those gaps. So that's what's happening right now and until October. But we have a little bit of overlap of the next timeline, which is starting in September. The Census Bureau is going to be doing the recruitment and hiring of more than 8,000 census takers, or enumerators is what we call them, or the Census Bureau calls them. So that's going to be happening until February of next year. And for our local efforts here, there'll be some early stage census outreach activities. So a lot of organizations, a lot of communities are gearing up, doing trainings, making sure that their staff know, making sure that if there's any existing workshops or existing trainings, they're starting to spread the word about census and making sure people understand what's coming. Some outreach events and the communications and canvassing happening. And then likely from a couple groups, you'll see the potential second round RFPs for filling gaps. And what I should have mentioned, I'm sorry, in the earlier timeline is many counties have released their RFP, and some of them have just closed them, or some of them haven't, or some of them are deciding to do different stages as well. So a lot of that work is happening right now across the many counties. And then the next time frame that we're working on is March 2020 through April 2020. And this is really the core census time. So this is when we want people to, especially the Census Bureau wants people to self-respond. So they're going to get a postcard or a letter, I've seen it in both ways, in the mail with a PIN number, and the folks can go online and start the census. They can also do it by phone. And they can also do it by paper. And in online and by phone, it's available in 13 languages. On paper, it's only going to be available in 2. There are some earlier, I will say that there, earlier in 2020, there is also some operations happening at the Census Bureau to count different types of living quarters, right? Like group living quarters, people who are experiencing homelessness. So the Census Bureau is actually going to start even before they give us, at standard addresses, that letter with the PIN so that we can do it online. They're actually going to be doing their own operations to get started on the count. So that will be happening. And at the same time, we're going to be continuing our outreach efforts through all the grantees, all the organizations that are engaged with census in their local counties, or through the Census Funders Collaborative. They're all going to be doing a lot of that outreach effort, and that will continue through April. Specifically, we have some things planned for March through April with the state. We're going to be doing some Be Counted events, and Be Counted is the state's tagline, so Be Counted California. And I know many counties are using that as well. So we're likely to be hosting some events in collaboration with you all and others. And then we're also going to have the QAC. So QAC stands for Questionnaire Assistance Center. And these are places where people can go to get help with filling out the census. They either can answer questions, or they'll literally be maybe a tablet or a computer or something that they can go in and fill it and get some assistance with filling out their own census. So those will be in operation. And then after April, you'll start to see the non-response follow-up happen. So the Census Bureau actually has a very specific non-response follow-up, or NRFU, for those of you who like fun acronyms. NRFU operation will happen after April. So, and that goes through most of the summer. And we will be doing some follow-up census outreach activities as well to make sure anyone who hasn't heard about it yet, anyone who needs that extra nudge, still gets the information, and we're still pushing people to fill it out if they haven't participated yet. So I'll do one more slide, and then I'll take some questions. So what's really exciting about the state's investment in census this year, or I'm sorry, this time, is that there's over $180 million that the state is investing in for this census. So there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of organization, but there's a lot of groups doing a lot of things. And I know that when I started working on this in January, that's the first thing I noticed is many folks doing a lot of work, and that's great because we all have our different groups that we have the ability to reach out to. But there's been, coordination is much needed. And I think the state office saw the need to organize as a regional effort. So you'll see here, the map that you see here is the 10 regions that the state has identified and funded an ACBO like us. So we are region 3, but there are 10 regions throughout the state, and those ACBOs are working with their local counties and their local partners to do the work as well. So you really have a national effort, then you have the State of California Complete Count Office, and they will be doing a statewide media campaign. And the Census Bureau will start theirs in January. And then we'll have our local one, and then we'll have the Bay Area Census Funders Collaborative and some of the funders that are involved in that, like Silicon Valley Community Foundation and the East Bay Community Foundation, and other funders are also supporting some local outreach work. And then you have each county and their complete count efforts who are doing some really localized outreach efforts. So there are many groups involved. We're really hoping to, and everyone in our region is really collaborative and working together to, basically our goal is to get everyone counted. That's why we're here. So it's been great to see all of us work together and coordinate. But that's really, the landscape is many players, many cooks in the kitchen, but all with the same goal. And so we're getting some alignment together on data tracking, on outreach efforts, on media buying, and things like that. So that's really how the whole region is really working together to make sure that we do this right. So with that, I'll pause for questions. I do think if you have a question right now, there's more to come from the state, or I'm sorry, from Marin County and Contra Costa County. But if you do have any specific questions about what I've covered, I'd be happy to take that just really quickly. Any clarifying?
Hi, Kelly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Kathy Zhang, and I'm actually with a Chinese language public radio.
Okay.
Yeah, and we reach the whole Bay Area. So you mentioned the media buy. So how does that work?
Yeah, so we'll be, and thank you for your question, and I encourage you, I'll give you some contact information at the end if you have any questions for us, and so will Contra Costa and Marin. But in terms of media, we will be working with the counties to coordinate that and to make sure we have, we're coordinated amongst that. So more to come on that. We haven't figured that out yet. Some of that is because we're still learning what the state is doing and what the federal Census Bureau is doing. So thank you for your question, but I don't have details on that yet. Any other clarifying questions?
Thank you. If you can, provide me the contact info later.
It will be at the end. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, then I'll keep going, and maybe we have time at the end for question and answer as well.
Kelly, hi, it's Maribel with Gardner Health Services. I have a really quick question. I had heard that with respect to the grant funding, that the state was having an issue with the possibility, if any of us included some type of infrastructure like either laptops or kiosks, that the state hadn't made a decision on whether that was going to be part of the infrastructure that the grant recipients were going to be allowed to make purchases of. Can you clarify if that's actually true?
Yeah, we are still waiting for some guidance both from the Census Bureau and the state around their requirements for questionnaire assistance centers or questionnaire assistance kiosks. So in terms of being able to use funds to purchase equipment, I don't have that specific answer, but we're still waiting on more information about those in general. In fact, I was just speaking with, if some of you probably know Stephanie Kim, who is our Senior Director of Census 2020. She is, who would like to be here with you today, but she's at an event, a census event. She actually, we are still trying to collect that information about the specifics and requirements and any restrictions. So more to come on that. I don't have an answer on that.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then I will keep going. Some of the local strategies that are happening before census and during census, which I've mentioned some of them, but you know, especially and this is beyond even the folks that have applied with us to get funding, but before census, you see a lot of people who are starting to do workshops. They're starting to do some advertising. You see canvassing, as well as, you know, just flyering and tabling, getting information out there, and then also supporting the recruitment for census jobs. And this is a teaser, but near the end of the webinar, you'll actually see one of our webinars, the final webinar, is about census jobs, and I think you'll find that really interesting. So, but we continue to support that work, knowing that the same communities that we need to do outreach for census is where we need to do outreach for census workers and census jobs. So that the people working for the Census Bureau reflect our communities and their trusted messengers. So that's work that's happening now. During the census, we mentioned this already, we'll be doing the Be Counted events. We'll be doing additional flyering and tabling and advertising. And we're looking at all types of advertising, right? We're looking at, you know, radio and TV and transit and digital and social media and all those things. So those are all on the list and all have different target reaches. And then the questionnaire assistance. So we're going to be leveraging 211. So most of you probably know about 211 here in the Bay Area, but there's 3 different 211s that operate here, and 4 if you count Sonoma, but 3 in the 7 counties, and they have the capacity to answer questions and make referrals in over 150 languages. So we would want to make sure that they have some basic census information, as well as can connect people to local questionnaire assistance centers. One of the other things that we're planning to do is leverage, and you know, this is tax season when this is happening. So of course, there will be people going out getting their taxes done, and we have a large free tax preparation initiative here in the Bay Area. And so we'll see thousands of people coming through those locations, and we want to make sure we remind them about census while they're getting their taxes done. Always fun. Okay, so now I'm going to bring up Teresa from Contra Costa County. And Teresa, if you could introduce yourself, and maybe that's in your, I'll go ahead and pull your slides up, and you can just tell me when to move slides.
Okay, so do we want to, let's see, we can try the video. Oh, there you go.
Great. Oh, there we go.
This is somebody else's slide, but I love the message. Oh,
yeah, that's just my screensaver. Hold on one second.
Okay.
We're getting you.
But I do love that message.
Okay.
So while you're getting that, and you can go to the next slide, but hi everyone. I'm very excited to be here on behalf of the Contra Costa County Census 2020 Complete Count Steering Committee. And I am representing that committee and the team of folks who are staffing it. I work with Supervisor Burgess from District 3 in Contra Costa County, and she is the chair along with Supervisor Anderson, who's the vice chair. And so today I'm looking forward to sharing with you some of the work that we're already doing in partnership with all of the others that Kelly has highlighted. So on your screen now is just an overview of what the presentation will be. I will cover what our outreach concept has been, talk about some of our outreach programs, and then end with what could be considered a blatant plug for our upcoming request for proposals. And so we can move on, Kelly. So Kelly touched on this. We lots of different people working on the census. Census 2020, and the goal, I think, of everyone is to ensure that everyone is counted once, only once, and in the right place. And so in Contra Costa County, Supervisor Burgess also likes to say that she wants to make sure that everyone wants to be counted and that everyone wants everyone to be counted, so that we make sure that everyone, no matter what their concerns are about the census, is counted on or around April 1st, 2020. So we can go on. And Kelly touched on the partners. I'm just going to very quickly go through them. The Census Bureau is responsible for the count. At one of our outreach meetings, we had one of our steering committee members actually have one of those aha moments, and that's that the Census Bureau is responsible for the count, that what we're doing is making sure that helping to make sure that all of the people, particularly in our hard to count communities, whose lives we touch each and every day, are ready to be counted when the Census Bureau initiates the process. And then the second level or partners are at the state level. And I am going to update our slide. I noticed that the state of California does find it to be very important, and they initially had budgeted a little over $154 million, and I did not update the slide to add the $30 million. As Kelly pointed out, it's now up to a little over $180 million. At the regional level, yay, United Way Bay Area and our ACBO, thank you for hosting this series of webinars to bring us all together. We look forward to working with you. We appreciate the marketing materials and shared technologies that you are currently negotiating and working on for us. Down to the county level, Contra Costa County, our role we see is to help coordinate and fund locally, while also making sure that all of our local nonprofits, cities, and towns know what resources and have the correct messaging from the federal, state, and regional level. And our Board of Supervisors, I'll talk a little bit more about it, but did recently commit to invest $500,000 in the census work, including $350,000 to supplement outreach efforts that I'll talk about a little bit later. And then last but absolutely not least, the most important, the core and the heart of the outreach process are our partners or our trusted messengers. And I know many people on the line today fit that category. Actually, probably all of us in some way or another fit that category. And we look forward to helping to coordinate resources, information, and initiatives from all the levels that are working on this to make sure that we reach those hard-to-find communities. One other piece, and I know it's very important to Supervisor Burgess and all of the supervisors, is that we're looking at using this opportunity for census outreach as a way to provide long-term sustainability for the nonprofits in Contra Costa County. So looking at this also as a capacity building opportunity. And so with all of those different partners and the work that we're looking to do, we can go to the next slide. And I can share a little bit about how Contra Costa County will be supporting community partners. And we can go to the next slide. And so we have a number of different outreach programs, if you will, and I'm going to talk about a couple of them. The first one is on our messaging partners. And so we're looking at, and Kelly touched on this, we're looking at how we can bring together all of the resources that from the federal government, the state, regionally, and then at the county level to make sure that we're efficiently and, let's face it, cost effectively using all of those various resources. And the intent is to then utilize existing networks to help spread the word about the importance of the census. And so to help with that, the outreach subcommittee of the Complete Count Committee has developed an outreach plan that aligns with what Kelly was showing in terms of the federal, state, and regional timing, and mostly to the same themes. So our educational messaging is being developed and is ongoing now through February 2020. We're also looking at then motivational messaging to align with where Kelly was talking about the efforts through March 2020 and May 2020, the actual boots on the ground, getting people to complete the census, and then the non-response follow-up, and the fourth phase, or the last phase, our thank you and our closing out and capturing what worked and what we can do better next time. So some of the materials and resources that we're working on are showing here. We do have the county logo and tagline. We're working on articles and social media posts for our partners to share. As we go forward, we're looking at other resources that are listed here. And we did a session this morning and had some requests for additional things, posters and potentially banners. We do have some banners, but looking for ideas on other materials that folks might need outside of some of the funding and other programs you've gotten. So next slide. So Kelly talked about the questionnaire assistance centers and the kiosks or quacks. We're looking at those and we've been mapping various places where these centers can go. Also, as Kelly pointed out, we're also waiting on specifics about what that's going to look like in terms of hardware and privacy and security requirements. I do understand, following a meeting yesterday, that everyone's been asking this question, and there are meetings coming up in the next week or so with the various federal and state to look at that and to have some guidance for us. So I'm hopeful that's coming soon. Some of the logical places and who have already been engaged are our libraries. And so throughout Contra Costa and the city of Richmond, they're looking at that. As I said, we've been mapping that. And then once all of the guidance is provided, we look forward to working with our regional partners, state partners, to develop a quack in a box, if you will, kit, so that when these resources go out into the field, we'll be able to help support that. And next, we've also developed a speakers bureau, and so Supervisor Burgess, steering committee members, county staff, and also Census Bureau staff have been going out and making presentations. We started with this effort going out to cities and towns. Supervisor Burgess has presented at the Mayor's Conference in Contra Costa County and has also presented to the special districts in a joint effort with Alameda County. And so through those, it's to develop those partnerships and to build that network. We're still available to continue doing that. And we're beginning to train trusted messengers. And so on Monday, August 26th, there is a day of training, if you will, but from 1 to 2 p.m. at 777 Arnold Drive, there in the Paramount Room, we will be having a how to give a census presentation training. And so if you're interested in that, you can email me. My contact information will be at the end. You can also go to www.cococensus.org. Kelly will be providing that later as well. But to sign up to be a partner so you get all of this information as we go forward. And then on the next slide, sort of that last but absolutely not least, is that, as I noted, the Board of Supervisors has invested in the importance of providing some census outreach and assistance grants. And so out of the $500,000 investment, $350,000 is set aside or targeted to local community organizations. And you can see the goals here. They're kind of the overall goals of the whole census outreach effort: to target our hard-to-count communities, work with trusted messengers, provide local resources. And one of the things that we're all very excited about on the census, COCO Census staffing, is hearing those innovative outreach strategies for reaching hard-to-count communities, because there's a whole different push this time. Christine Solsing, who's involved, was in the 2010 census, and she has several different ideas about new outreach strategies, but they all came from the communities. And so we're looking forward to that. And then again, that whole goal of capacity building and supporting that, strengthening our nonprofits and community organizations. So the next slide, and I'm going to talk a little bit about, we'll go pretty quickly through these, but the funding programs, Contra Costa is looking at doing it in 2 phases. First phase with some larger grants, and it'll go across these 5 sort of categories: outreach, education and awareness, non-English, that innovative strategies again, the questionnaire assistance programs that we talked about, and then also non-English. In phase 2, which will launch in January, it's also about those, Kelly was calling them be counted events. And so these are the Contra Costa's tagline, which I jumped over, is count me in. And so these will be count me in because we all count events that will be coming up in that push to have boots on the ground and get people out to complete their census. And so these grants that will come in the January 2020 phase will be rolling on as organizations qualify and apply and qualify, and will go through May. Next slide. These 2 next slides, I'm not expecting anybody to read every one of these, but basically they talk about those program categories, and then they talk about a description, grantee requirements, what the county will provide, and then also those funding level ranges. And so this slide is phase 1. The next slide that Kelly will bring up is phase 2, that will be those event, sort of more event focused, mini grants, if you will. And then we go to the next slide. On eligible applicants, you will see this when the RFP comes out, but this gives you a sense of whether your organization or organizations that you're familiar with who are those trusted messengers in our hard-to-count communities, whether or not they would qualify. Next phase, next slide. And then just some of the grantee requirements. And so some of them are very obvious. We will have trainings coming up. I'll talk about that in just a moment, but you will be required to come to the training opportunities that we'll have coming up. Next slide. And the slide everybody's really been waiting for is when will all of these come out? On September 3rd, the RFP is scheduled to be released. This is a very aggressive, might be a strong word, but timeline. We'll have we're scheduling a bidders conference. They'll be due on September 30th. They will be reviewed by subcommittee. And then at the October 21st steering committee meeting, the grants will hopefully be awarded, and then we will kick off those training sessions. For phase 2, as I mentioned, that will start in January 1st, and they will be rolling as the Complete Count Committee receives applications. And the next slide. And then just, you can go to the next slide, is sort of that regional working group. And I know different groups, and we can start clicking through these, Kelly, and I'll talk pretty quickly through them. Where we have been, the Census Steering Committee had their first meeting in January, so since mid-January, February, we've been developed the strategic plan. It has been approved by the state, been building the network. making sure that we're building that group of trusted messengers and partners as we go along. We're now working in the implementation plan. In June, we had we had 4 regional working groups. We have Contra Costa County broken up by East, West, Central, and South. And so we had a sort of inventory, bringing together nonprofits, businesses, city, county, and other agencies to come together and talk about where we are now and what kinds of tools we already have as we begin to develop the implementation plan. In the implementation plan, we'll be engaging with all of the stakeholders again to make sure that we're on track and making sure that we know all of the partners, and as well as all of the areas where we are very much going to need to focus. We're going to have trainings. They'll be mandatory for our grantees, award recipients, and then they will also be available for all of those same stakeholders, the businesses, counties, to make sure that everyone is ready to get out and to have that messaging. January, February, boots on the ground. More outreach training, making sure that everybody's ready for their kickoff events, and then in April, making sure that we are out there and working with the Census Bureau, the state, and our ACBO, the United Way Bay Area, to make sure that everyone's counted. And we didn't put that thank you phase up on the pyramid yet, but that'll come later as well. So next slide. Basically back down to, if you have additional questions or ideas, we're looking for ideas all the time. You can reach out to me. I also do want to, Kelly does have a connection to or a link to the www.cococensus.org, and you can go there right now as you're sitting at your computer multitasking and sign up to be a partner with the Contra Costa Census 2020 Complete Count Committee. So thank you for your time.
Great, thank you, Teresa. I think I'll just have people hold their questions until the very end, if that's okay.
That sounds
and
great.
they can ask all their questions. Great.
Okay.
Okay, so let me pull up Stephanie. Stephanie, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm gonna pull you up and make sure we can see you here. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, just tell me when.
Okay. All right. So hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie McNally. I am the Canal Alliance Advocacy and Policy Manager. And I'm also leading the countywide outreach effort for 2020 Census, working with Marin County. Next slide, please. So according to Race Count's website from the Advancement Project and their partners, Marin County ranks the first most racially disparate county in California. So for us, the census isn't just about funding or representation, although those are 2 very important things, but for us, we have a huge equity gap in our county, and we are really looking to the census as a tool to help us improve our outcomes. Next slide, please. When you look at identifying our hard-to-count populations in the county, we're rather spread out, but we've got some very deep pockets. We used the California Hard-to-Count Index kind of as our guide to determine where we wanted to focus our hard-to-count outreach. We used the California Index average of 37 to determine which of these areas were really ones we need to focus on. And as you can see from this map, all of these areas are above, and in some cases, way above that 37. So we've got a lot of work to do in our county. Next slide, please. So why does this matter? Why does the census matter in Marin? One of the analyses we did is we took that $1,000 per person per year for 10 years number that the state of California has given us, and we looked at our 2010 non-mail return rate just to get an idea of potential funding loss for the next 10 years. We feel like this is a really strong message to deliver countywide. And we actually, in this particular table, have it organized around our hard-to-count tracts. So you can see that for some of these tracts, it's anywhere from 8 million to 24 million that could be lost over 10 years if we don't count everyone, which is very ambitious because I know this for the Census Bureau, the average response rate has been declining. over the last few censuses, but we really want to turn that around because we can see what's at stake. That's funding for many of the individuals who fall into these historically undercounted populations. Next slide, please. So very quickly, what's happening in Marin County? Our Board of Supervisors accepted state funding in February. We quickly formed what we call a complete count staff team. That staff team was actually a combination of representatives from different cities that have hard to count populations, Novato, San Rafael, and some county support also helping us with West Marin and Marin City. So we began meeting to pull our complete count committee together, which occurred in March. And from there, we actually had our first Census Solutions workshop. And actually what we learned from that was that the organizations, the partners, really felt strongly about organizing themselves by region as opposed to by hard to count population. So we went forward with that feedback and created our complete count subcommittees based on 4 hard to count or historically undercounted regions in our county: Marin City, San Rafael, Novato, and West Marin. And then just recently in early July, the Marin County Board of Supervisors approved Canal Alliance as the lead countywide census outreach agency. So some of the funding that our county received for 2020 outreach was granted to Canal Alliance and a partner of ours, Community Action Marin, to actually lead the census outreach efforts here in the county. And over the summer since then, mostly in July and early August here, we've been launching all of our regional subcommittees in those 4 regions we mentioned. All of these subcommittees have met at least 2 times between July and early August, and will continue to meet throughout this year. Next slide, please. So this is really a diagram of how we're organized with our complete count committee. We have a county census steering committee. This is made up of electeds from across the county. And then they really provide us governance, guidance. They're really bring us advisory capacity to the work we're doing. Then we also have a complete count committee, which is comprised of over 40 individuals. And they cover government, education, business, CBOs, libraries, media, health and human services, and housing. And what we have focused on now is building these regional subcommittees. So we actually have 4 of them where it says Canal, that's actually San Rafael, Marin City, Novato, and West Marin. And again, these groups have been meeting to develop our strategies that we will feed into our state implementation plan. So that's our first phase, July to December. January to May, we're actually going to be implementing all of those things we've come up with in the fall using what we're calling community action teams. And really for us, it will probably be an extension of these regional subcommittees, but bringing on additional individuals who can actually help us on the ground. So really developing all of those trusted messengers that everyone's talking about, not only within all of these organizations, but really on all the people that they serve and all of their staffs and everyone who touches someone who lives in a historically undercounted population. So our goal is to really reach all county residents. Next slide, please. So our staff team is really at the core of the work we're doing with the Complete Count Committee. Members from our staff are from the city of San Rafael, city of Novato, county of Marin, and Canal Alliance. Some of the work that we're doing right now is we launched and are expanding our Marin 2020 Census 2020 website. So marincensus2020.org. If you're listening in and you're a Marin County resident, please check out the website. We're still doing a lot of work on it, so there's always new information being added to it. We also have organized and are convening those regional subcommittee meetings in all of these regions. So this team is really driving the meetings and gathering that information in order to develop our implementation plan for the state. We're also planning a countywide census forum in partnership with our Marin First 5 partner later in September, hoping to bring together a larger group to really talk about not only why the census matters, but how we're going to reach all of our historically undercounted populations and how they can help us. And then the final piece of this is coordinating funding opportunities. So Kelly touched on this a bit. We're still waiting to hear what all of our funding will be coming through, but really trying to make sure that we have the most effective and efficient use of that funding, that we make sure everyone gets access to it, but that we're also not duplicating efforts. So we're really trying to be very coordinated about the funding opportunities, because for Marin County, that funding is rather limited compared to other larger counties. Next slide, please. So one of the things I wanted to share is just something that seems to be working well in Marin County, which is a hybrid approach to census education and outreach. While we rely heavily on our partnerships, and I've listed a few of these here, we're also very reliant on our regional subcommittees for ideas, strategies on how to outreach, what has worked in the past and is successful, where can we innovate, how do we reach those people who will truly be, who maybe aren't receiving services from some of the nonprofits or county agencies, but we still need to get to them. How do we reach even those more difficult to reach individuals? And then the other thing that's surfacing here is that I'm doing a lot of hard to count outreach with specific focus groups. So sometimes getting a group of people into a subcommittee meeting is a challenge. Getting them to come multiple times is a challenge. People are busy, they want to help. So I'm trying to tap into other organizations and other groups that can provide some of that feedback that we need in terms of messaging and outreach, without necessarily needing them to sit at a subcommittee meeting for several meetings over the course of several months. So really looking to get the information from a lot of different sources, and working with as many groups and individuals as we can to get the word out, and to really understand what our messaging should be. Everyone talks about tailored messaging, but that information comes from all the organizations that you see, and all the bullet points you see on the slide. You've really got to cast a wide net. Next slide, please. So some of our upcoming activities, things that we're focusing on right now, we're working on a Trusted Messenger Pledge campaign. There are quite a few organizations that are doing pledge campaigns to pledge to participate in the census. While our pledge campaign will do that, our primary focus is really on trusted messengers. While organizations like Canal Alliance, Community Action Marin, our city and county governments are trusted messengers, we realize too that for some of our more vulnerable communities right now, it really needs to come from religious leaders, neighbors, family, friends, coworkers, employers. So we really want to create a group of trusted messengers that really network and feed into every aspect of our lives and the lives of our historically undercounted. So we will be launching this in September. It'll be a physical card, an online card. It'll be a way for people to get text or email updates on things they can share with their family, friends, coworkers, employees, etc. So we're really hoping to leverage the entire county and helping everyone can be a trusted messenger is basically what the campaign will be. And we're hoping the more of those we have, the more we'll get the word out to actually motivate people to participate in the census. The other thing we're working on is helping the Census Bureau by doing Census Jobs information campaign and workshops. While the Census Bureau does a great job filling those positions, we want to make sure that some of those jobs go to people in our hard-to-count communities. So when enumerators are out knocking on doors, they might actually have someone knocking on the door that looks like them or speaks the same language they speak, and they might be more willing to participate. So we're really trying to get the word out to our historically undercounted communities to apply for these jobs. Another area we're working on is training staff and organizations that have direct contact with our hard-to-count populations. So that's all the nonprofits and governmental agencies. How do we equip them with the materials, the information, the motivational message? They're the ones that work with these populations. And so they're going to know how to reach them. And also we want them to be really well informed so they can pass on accurate information and really put forth that message on the importance of being counted. And then finally, we're building an outreach work plan for each regional subcommittee. So each regional subcommittee is coming up with their own implementation work plan, which we will then gather up to present to the state. So we're working on that at a regional level with each of our 4 regional subcommittees. Next slide, please. So our call to action, if anyone who's in Marin County, our call to action is please visit marincensus2020.org. There is a place to contact. My contact information is there, and people can leave us messages. We really want to hear from all of you. We don't want to miss anyone. It's really important that we count everyone in Marin County. Become a trusted messenger and share the importance of census participation. So when we roll out that trusted messenger campaign, we want everyone on board to participate and to help us spread the word in their own way. What better way to customize a census participation message than having it come from someone you know and someone you trust? And then overall, really support an accurate count to make Marin a more equitable place to live, right? So again, representation from the census, really important. Funding, really important. But for us, the third piece is having an equitable county, a place where everyone can live, work, and succeed. Next slide, please. So join us. Go to the website. There are a lot of resources and ways to get involved and ways to sign up, or contact me directly. My email is there, and I'm sure Kelly will distribute that information as well afterwards. I think that's my last one, Kelly.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, so we'll continue. If I can only find my slides now. Don't know what happened to those. That's you. We will continue through the presentation here. Great, and I will show my face. We're doing an experiment. If you're more engaged by, you have to stare at our face. Just kidding. Okay. No, I can't hear any laughs because I muted you all. I guess that's my own fault. Okay, so I hear you all saying, you know, as we're here. So how do I get involved? And we're so excited to hear, and you want to do that. And you already have the information to go to Contra Costa and Marin. And yes, I saw some question on the chat about will this presentation be available? Yes, we will both make it available with Rise Together and with United Way Bay Area. We have a census page, uwba.org/census. And you can see the email there for us, census2020@uwba.org. I know Solano County is working on their website, so that's coming soon, and we'll make sure to update this when we do have it. But you'll be able to click on all of these and find your local county efforts. And I really want to encourage you to get plugged into what they're doing. There are lots of trainings, lots of materials, lots of, you know, I promise there are a lot of people making a lot of good resources that I promise will resonate with the work that you're trying to do. So I hope you'll look there first before you create anything on your own. I know that's something all of us working on this since the beginning of the year, or even longer than that, have been talking about. How do we get people the resources? There's so many good resources out there. A lot of thoughtful, smart people have been putting together things and thinking about this for a long time. So we will make sure we have all of that for you, and you can go there to your Complete Count Committee, or CCC. For Bay Area resources, what we do not, if you go to uwba.org/census right now, you won't see much. In fact, you'll see the RFP that we released earlier in the year and already closed. But eventually you'll see an outreach toolkit. We are creating a Bay Area campaign. So you'll see the county themes and the county campaigns that Stephanie and Teresa shared, but they're also going to make sure that you know, it's all connected to this Bay Area campaign, because we think that there's a lot of value in being consistent, a lot of value in being cohesive, and having the same message. So we're going to have that available, and you can use that and put that wherever you want. We're going to have a poster, a postcard, an infographic, digital and social media assets that you'll be able to use. And I know many of the counties are creating things. So for those of you who do work across counties, think about the regional approach. If you need something more localized, think about reaching out to or getting plugged into the Complete Count Committee. We're planning to cover many languages, not as many as, of course, are spoken in the Bay Area, but you'll see the languages there. We'll have a lot of resources, maybe not everything in every single language, but at least cover these languages with some material. We're also going to have some guides available. We're going to do a guide around volunteer training. So I mentioned, I think both Stephanie and Teresa mentioned, you know, you're going to equip the staff and the organizations on how to talk about census, how to be motivational around census. And so we'll have some of these guides that you can use, and they do too. Like all of us have talked about as well, recommendations for operating a questionnaire assistance center. So if you want to help people with census, we will have some guidelines for you. And then a lot of other things that's under et cetera. So we're working on, we're hoping to also just be a place where if you can't remember any of the other counties, you can't remember which great, you know, national organization put something together, you can come to Bay Area or to the United Way, and you'll be able to get what you need and find the location of the things that you're looking for. And again, that will all be available starting in September. We're working on the final language for our website right now. The next, you know, idea or a thing we want you to do to get involved is really leverage and align the regional activities. And I already mentioned this, and I think made my plea in several ways, but because we are going to be doing some regional, digital, TV, print, outdoor advertising, you know, we're working with the counties to see, can we pool funds and do media buys together? You know, we share a regional market, media market, so it really makes sense for us to be doing some of these things together. So, in fact, we saw, I saw in the applications we received as the ACBO and the funding we were doing, several organizations wanting to do some media buys. And, you know, and we know that there's a lot of value in being local, hyper-local media, but we're also hoping to do some regional stuff and can hopefully lift all boats, right? So hopefully you can leverage some of that as well in terms, we all have limited resources, right? We're going to be doing ethnic media and publications. And that's included in that advertising. Regional texting campaign that some of the counties are going to use with us. The 211 hotline I already mentioned, VITA I already mentioned, which stands for Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. So that's the free tax preparation locations. We have at least over 100 VITA locations across the Bay Area, and even more if you include the AARP effort. So we're hoping to connect people to help as well as just more information about the census. Upcoming funding opportunities, you heard about Contra Costa. The Census Funders Collaborative is planning to do some later RFPs. They continue to fundraise, and so they're going to be opening up new RFPs as time goes on, either to fill gaps or when they get additional funding, and both. And then the United Way, I mentioned this as well. We will be opening up some later RFPs to fill gaps. So I hope you'll check that. And then you've already been, you know, I've already beaten this over your head here, but please check with your complete count committee in your county for additional outreach activities. And they're doing a lot. So please do that. Let's pause for Q&A. Again, you have a contact information here. And yes, you'll have the slides available as well as the recording. But does anyone have any questions? And you'll have to unmute yourself. I see, Carla, that you raised your hand in here. I don't know how you figured out how to do that, but great, thank you. But go ahead if you have a question. Can you unmute yourself? If you can't, I can try to figure it out. Okay.
Oh, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, great.
Oh, great, thank you. Hi, Kelly. My question is in regards to the questions and assistance centers that are going to be operating with VITA at the same time. I'm not really sure if you can clarify that for me, and if they will have some kind of access to kind of partner with technology organizations in the case that we don't have, you know, the capacity for like equipment and we don't want to invest in that. But I know that there's going to be some technology grants for different organizations. Can you please explain how a partnership possibility will exist for nonprofits?
You mean to get the technology to be able to do that?
Yes, or if there's like partnership opportunities with organizations, or I'm not really sure, like who get grants for technology specifically, because I've heard some kind of conversations happening at the immigrant subcommittee, but I want to make sure that I really understand, you know, the possibility of partnerships, or if the organization itself, like if we will have to get the equipment, you know, in order to operate a question and assistance centers.
Well, I'll take the first part of your comment about the VITA site. So the VITA sites, the tax sites are going to do is leverage the equipment they already have, right? So they have equipment that they're using for tax preparation that, you know, they are following. I know we are still checking on privacy and data requirements, but they're already securing that their internet access, et cetera, and logins by volunteers, et cetera, because they follow the IRS requirements. But so I'm imagining a lot of questionnaire assistance centers just leveraging existing infrastructure, like if you have a computer lab, or if you have tablets for some other enrollment efforts that you do around Covered California or Medi-Cal or whatever it might be. So I can see that happening at a good deal of places that, you know, in some of the applications we receive, as many folks mentioned, we have this computer lab that's not used on these 2 days, and that's going to become our questionnaire assistance center. So there's that. In terms of partnerships and resources to get technology, there are a couple technology organizations I know that are working with counties to see what they can do. And again, I'm unclear, and someone else in the world may know the answer to this, but we can follow up on this in terms of what the state funding can be used for or not, in terms of equipment. But I don't have a regional organization that I know is providing technology. Earlier in this process, I did think about who are our technology partners out in the world that could potentially provide tablets and internet access, like a Comcast or an AT&T or something like that we could get a donation from. So I don't have a specific plan. I don't know if Stephanie, Teresa, or even Megan, if you have any insider knowledge about a partnership like this. But otherwise, I'll flag this for us and see what we can do to get information out there.
Thank you.
Okay. I do have a question on the chat. It says, with funding coming from multiple sources, if we are trying to do events in specific counties, is it beneficial to apply to the counties directly as well? I would say yes. I think it's beneficial. Something, you know, we've gotten questions early on when the Census Funders Collaborative released their RFP earlier in April, and people were wondering, how are we going to manage these multiple funding streams? And, you know, do we ask for one project, 3 separate projects? So I would just make it clear to whoever you ask for funding from, you know, I want to do this huge project and it's going to cost $50,000 and I need 10 from you and 10 from you and 10 from you to be able to do all of it. I'm not sure every county can do you know, we received over 130 applications requesting $5.5 million. We only received $2.8 million, but we're using some of that for staff, of course, for media, for materials. And so and for technology, et cetera. So we're not going to be, we're not even granting out the full $2.8 million. So there certainly is not enough resources to cover all the projects that everyone wants to do, but I think it's definitely beneficial. I don't know if Stephanie or Teresa would have any other, I know Stephanie in Marin County, they're organized very specifically, but I don't know if you would give any advice about that either.
So, yeah, this is Stephanie. For Marin County, we have funding that's come from the state that we're going to be putting out some sort of application process. We're working on it right now. We're also waiting to see what other funding sources come in. So right now, the way it's looking is that we'll be able to distribute funding from the county, but also from the Northern California grant makers, and we'll be doing it to the hard to count region. So those subcommittees are going to help us determine how best to use that funding. So we'll have an application system. Once all of that is in place, hopefully in the month of September, all that information will be available on our website. So we're still working on it, but we will have all that information available on our website.
Great.
And Kelly, same thing in Contra Costa County. We would encourage you to apply to us as well. And we are partnering with the Bay Area Funders Alliance and with United Way Bay Area, staying in very close collaboration on where that funding is. And in our application, we do ask the question of who else have you applied to and what other funding sources have you received?
Great. Yeah, and that's what we did is we asked who else have you applied to, and we're also working closely with the Funders Collaborative to say, like, they're coming to us and saying, hey, we could only fund this much of this project. Can you meet us? Can you help us finish it? So there's been those types of things. So we are trying to work collaboratively between the collaborative and the county. Any other questions? I don't see one in chat, but anybody else have a question? I see one more on chat, but I kind of hear someone. Okay. I see two questions on the chat. One is, could we get a summary of the funding opportunities? Yeah, that's actually something I put together for our strategic plan for the state. But at that time, you know, people like Contra Costa who just got approved to be able to spend additional funds, and Stephanie talking about Marin, where they're still waiting to figure out what funds they have to grant out. So some of this is a work in progress, but I do think that's a perfect use of the ACBO website in terms of what RFPs are out there, what's happening. So I think that's a great idea, Jill, and we'll work on that. But we can probably try to, probably try to put some links together for you now with it not being so fancy. I see another question. Will United Way hold a similar webinar for Santa Clara County or other counties like San Mateo and San Francisco? No, we'll go over what the next webinars are. The reason we did this is we wanted to highlight some local work for you. We didn't necessarily have time to do all 7 counties in one webinar. And I haven't thought about that. In talking with Megan and designing these, we thought we'd give you a snapshot. I will talk with Stephanie on our team and think about what does it mean to do this for the rest of the counties. So thank you for that question. And then Lauren, you're asking if you receive funding from one of the funding sources, will you be excluded from others? No, that's not the case. I think that's why we try to get as much information as possible in terms of what project are you doing, and what are we funding, and what do you need? Because we want to make sure you could do you have the funding you need to do a project that you want to do. If you asked for multiple projects, we might say, okay, we can't do all of this, but we can do this piece. I wish we could fund everybody at the level that they asked for, but that we don't have the resources for that. And I'm going to mute everyone again just because I hear some background noise. But if somebody wants to ask a question, you can unmute yourself and go ahead, or type it. Okay, well then I will keep going. I only have one more slide for you. And I'm thinking that I will go ahead and cover this, and Megan, I'll let you just chime in. So today, webinar number 1, how will the Bay Area get counted? And you can see from Stephanie and Teresa's presentation that counties are organizing themselves, getting funding out, working with partners, creating materials, creating messaging, training, and that's, we're all getting organized to get the Bay Area counted. And hopefully you got a good sense for that today. Webinar number 2 is actually going to take a deep dive into a few hard to count communities. One being, I know I've gotten a lot of questions about people who are experiencing homelessness, so that's going to be one of them there. So please, you'll get this registration link. You can find this registration link. I know we'll send it out. I'll let Megan speak to where you can find it on hers. And then the last one, scheduled for October 23rd, is actually supporting a complete count and getting, for census jobs, getting census enumerators, what they're going to do, how you can help recruit them, how you can help get people who represent the community to be census enumerators. So it's actually going to be a really important piece of the work, and I hope you'll join us for all 3. Megan, is there anything you want to say about these, where to find them, what your feelings about webinars in general?
I feel strongly that these are excellent webinars, Kelly. Thank you for putting these together. And, you know, webinar number 2 is kind of in some ways the heart and soul of this work. It's the questions many of us on the ground have been asking is how do we ensure that these hard to count communities are included and that they're included in more ways than one. So I'm excited to be a part of that webinar and to be putting that together. And we welcome your thoughts and comments on that topic as well. So you'll receive that information from United Way Bay Area. You'll also receive it from us through our newsletter and our partners that we ask to send it out to. So, and it'll also be on our events page on our website. So multiple access points to sign up for these additional webinars.
Great. Thanks, Megan. Okay, well, with that, I see that Kamani, thank you, Kamani, just posted the Rise Together link on our, in the chat box, but it's risetogetherbayarea.org/event. So go ahead or just check out risetogetherbayarea.org for all things Rise Together, and you'll be happy that you did. And that's it for us, and thank you all for joining us so much. And again, you'll find the PowerPoint and the recordings both at Rise Together and United Way's website. So hope you have a great afternoon, and we'll give you back a gift of time 15 minutes early. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.